Hey, everybody. This is Avery Carl, author of the Bigger Pockets book on short-term rental investing called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. And today I am going to talk to you about why you do not need a property manager for you to invest in Airbnbs or short-term rentals out of state. Okay, first, let's talk about a few of the reasons why you think you might need a property manager for if you're investing in short-term rentals out of state. Number one, to coordinate guest bookings, to coordinate cleanings, scheduling, lots of scheduling things, right? Maybe you need them there to greet guests, to make sure the guests aren't bringing in pets that aren't allowed or something like that. Fix things. If something breaks, you need somebody close by to be able to go by and fix it. Another thing that people think they might need a property manager for is in case of emergency. If a guest has an emergency, you have somebody close by who can stop by the property. So we're going to talk about a few of these things in depth and why you do not need a property manager to do these things. But before we get into the ins and outs of why you don't need one, let's talk about the difference between a property manager in the short-term world versus a property manager in the long-term world. So I own both long-term and short-term rentals. I use property managers all day long on all of my long-term rentals, but I don't use them on my short-term rentals. The reason being is that when it comes to short-term rentals, property managers charge an average of 25% of your gross income. In a lot of cases, that can be over half of your cash flow. In the case of an investor who's really trying to squeeze every last dollar out of that short-term rental and really bootstrap and snowball that income into a larger portfolio, whether you want to buy more short-terms or long-term rentals, you can buy more properties faster with that short-term rental income than if you had only done long-term rentals. And a property manager taking 25% of that gross is really going to hinder your growth. So to give you a little bit of perspective on that, if I'd used a property manager in the last month, I would have paid that property manager for my short terms $31,000. And over the course of 12 months, even accounting for seasonality, that's over $200,000 a year. That is upper management, sometimes C-suite level salary. So I know I could do a lot more for my own personal wealth building with that $200,000 than paying a property manager. So now we're going to get into how you can do those things yourself. You might think that you need a property manager to coordinate all of your bookings and schedule your cleanings and things like that. The OTAs, which are the online travel agencies such as Airbnb and VRBO, those are platforms where you can handle your own bookings and you don't need a property manager to do that. You don't need an independent website. You can advertise just on those platforms. There are more than just those two, but those are the two main ones. So you don't need them to handle your Airbnb and VRBO. You can do that right from your smartphone. And then scheduling cleanings. So this is kind of a topic for another video that we're going to do, but there are platforms called channel managers that automate a lot of these processes for you. They sync with your cleaner's calendar so that they know when they need to clean the property. So you're not having to call your cleaner or text your cleaner every time somebody books. As soon as they book on one of the OTAs, it runs through your channel manager. An example of a channel manager would be Your Porter or IGMS. And it'll run through your channel manager and it will automatically sync to your cleaner's calendar so they know when to clean without you ever having to call them. The second thing that a lot of new investors think they need a property manager to do is to be at the property to greet guests, to check them in and give them the key. Also to keep an eye, make sure they're not trying to sneak in any animals that might not be allowed, things like that. You don't need them to do this either. There are a lot of great smart locks. I use the Yale plus Nest or Nest plus Yale. I can't remember what it's called. Yale and Nest made a smart lock together, and that's what I use. And it has an app on your phone. You can change everything, change codes from the app on your phone, send the code to the guest. Again, your channel manager will do that automatically before the guest checks in, so you don't have to worry about coordinating it. So your guest has access to your house. Typically, your channel manager, you'll set it to send the day before, so you don't want them having access, way before their check-in. But your channel manager will send it to the guest the day before they check in. So you don't really have to coordinate that. That's all automated for you. And in terms of, checking up, making sure they're not trying to sneak in animals or extra people, there are a lot of great smart camera options. We use Ring doorbell and Ring floodlight cameras. There are rules about where you can put cameras. You can only have them facing the exterior front door. You can't have them inside the house. Obviously, that would be very creepy. And you can't have them in the backyard, facing potential pool areas and things like that. You have cameras. You're allowed to have cameras on the front of the house to kind of check on things, make sure there aren't any animals or extra people being snuck in. A third thing that a lot of investors think that they need a property manager to handle are things like being there for emergencies, whether the emergency is a maintenance emergency or a fire, or the guest is having some kind of an emergency. You nor your property manager do not need to insert yourself into any sort of a medical emergency with a guest. Let them handle that with the authorities. There's no reason you should ever insert yourself or a property manager into that kind of situation. A maintenance emergency, what a property manager is going to do, what the way that they find out about a maintenance emergency is the guest lets them know. Then the property manager goes and checks, and then they call the appropriate person to fix that. So if the HVAC goes out in the middle of the night, guest calls the property manager checks it, property manager calls an HVAC tech. You don't have to do all that. The guest is going to tell you, hey, we have an HVAC problem, and you're going to call an HVAC person just like you do if the air conditioner goes out in your own house, or at least I do, because I'm not an HVAC person. I can't fix that. So whether it's my own house or whether it's one of my short-term rentals and the guest tells me, hey, the air conditioner is not working, I'm going to pick up the phone and call my air conditioner person. You are really just taking out a lot of that middleman time and effort. The guest is either going to tell you or they're going to tell the manager. The end result is the HVAC technician comes out and works on the property. It's not worth that $30,000 for last month that I would have paid for the guest to tell someone else who's going to have to call someone else and call someone else when they can just tell me and I'll make the call and we call it a day. Now that we've kind of gone through the major questions that a lot of new investors have when it comes to short-term rentals and why they might need a manager for those, I do want to say that there is a time and place for a short-term rental property manager. We've talked about how if you're really trying to make as much cash flow as possible to grow your portfolio, that a property manager is an expense that you probably want to cut out. But if you're happy with your portfolio size, you're happy with your cash flow number, if you've hit that financial independence that you've been looking for, then by all means, hit the easy button, do some research, and find the best short-term rental property manager for you. With all of that being said, you're probably asking the question, well, if I don't need a property manager, who do I need? How do I find the boots on the ground that I need to manage a short-term rental remotely? We actually have another video on that with Bigger Pockets, so definitely go check that out to find out how to find the boots on the ground vendors that you need in the market that you're buying short-term rentals in. What do you guys think? Do you need a property manager? Hit me in the comments or find me on the Bigger Pockets forums, and please check out Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth.